Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another edition of StatHub. Today I have how much every country received from tourism in 2018. First off, you notice that every country is scaled in size relative to how much money they receive from tourism. The United States is pretty normal in size as they receive a pretty average amount of money in tourism per capita, while Canada, on the other hand, receives a much smaller percentage of money from tourism. So it is much smaller. Similar when you can see with Russia here that Russia is much smaller in size than it should be. Meanwhile, here, Macau and Hong Kong are massive compared to what they should be, as they receive a huge amount of money from tourism compared to their size. First up, what are the five biggest countries? What are the top five? First is the United States. The United States comes in a clear first place at $214 billion. This is pretty obvious as the United States is a big country, many people visit it, but also it is quite an expensive country. So as you will notice on most of this map, countries that are more expensive to travel to, the United States and Europe in particular, have more money spent in those countries because people have to spend more money. Hotels and food and restaurants, museums, they're all more expensive. Meanwhile, cheaper places, South America and Africa, are much cheaper, so it's harder for people to spend more money there. So, number one, the United States, followed by number two is Spain at 74 billion. Number three, right next door, is France at 67 billion. Again, two European countries, pretty expensive, so easy for people to go and spend a lot of money there. Fourth is Thailand. Thailand received $63 billion from tourism in 2018, which is a huge amount considering just how cheap of a country Thailand is. And if you compare Thailand to its neighboring countries in Southeast Asia like Cambodia, Vietnam, the Philippines, you will see that Thailand spends 5 to 10 times as much money as even its neighboring countries. This just goes to show you how much of a runaway effect tourism can be as more and more people start to come, you get a better reputation, people view your country as safe to travel to, but also cheap to travel to. Bangkok is probably a very, very cheap hub to fly into, making it a runaway effect as it becomes cheaper, so more people go there. As more people go there, the price begins to fall and fall. The infrastructure related to tourism begins to pop up and make it just more and more convenient. That's Thailand. And number four, rounding out the top five, is back over to Europe, and it is the United Kingdom at 52 billion. Again, not too surprising. The UK is a pretty common country to travel to, and again, quite an expensive country. So that is the top five in terms of raw numbers. Some of you are probably wondering, what are the tourism per capita? So obviously, most of these countries, the United States, Spain, France, the UK, and even comparatively, Thailand, have fairly large economies, a fairly large GDP. However, some much, much smaller nations still get a good amount of money. Now, I will leave out Macau and Hong Kong as they are hard to classify, as many of their international spending is people coming from mainland China, and people would consider some of them to be part of mainland China. It is extremely easy for people from the mainland to cross the border and spend money. Also, if you do not know what Macau is, I assume everyone knows Hong Kong. If you don't know Macau, Macau is a special administrative region of China, just like Hong Kong. However, Macau is known to be the quote Las Vegas of Asia. That is a huge gambling capital. In fact, recently many estimates put Macau's gambling revenues at much higher than even Las Vegas. But in terms of individual countries that have a larger percentage of their GDP to tourism, number one in terms of tourism as a percentage of GDP is down here in the Indian Ocean. It is the Maldives. So if you don't know the Maldives, they are a small chain of very luxurious islands. They have many famous picturesque resorts, little bungalow type things. So the Maldives takes in $3 billion from tourism. And if you're wondering what percent, online, I was able to see that it's around 40%, depending on the year. So about 40% of the Maldives economy relies on tourism. And in some years, it could be even higher than that. Coming back out here, many other countries that also spend a very large percentage of their GDP on tourism are usually island nations that rely on tourism, as it's very hard to get other types of infrastructure, as you just don't have much land for commercial development, business infrastructure, agriculture, things like that. And of course, many countries are excluded from this list. I assume many countries, it is quite hard to get data on, like in Africa and here on the East, there's not many, from only Australia and New Zealand, none of these smaller Pacific nations, which also have a huge percent of their GDP coming from tourism. So if you like this video, please leave a comment, give me a like. If you would like to see more tourism related graphs, I already have some other ideas lined up, already have some other things in plan. So let me know what you guys think and see you next time.